Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock Show. We'll be taking you through all of the important things you need to know in the world of MLB, as it's trade deadline day. So lots of guys moving around the league, lots of lineup changes to keep track of, lots of important stuff. I'm Chris Skaggs, joined by the baseball savant himself, the owner and founder of baseballsavant.mlb.com, Mr. Jake Hari. How are you doing today, Jake?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm just ready to play. This is a really fun slate, so I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go. We had a really good morning stream, a lot of good chatters, and so it's just been a lot of positivity today.
I know you're really coming in with some nice vibes. It's a sunny day in Minnesota, so no rain issues to note in our local weather reports out there for the day. But we do have some weather concerns elsewhere in the league. What games are we currently avoiding and afraid of today, Jake?
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, I mean, so Atlanta is a questionable one. We've got Cincinnati, Detroit is also a little bit in question. That one's probably the most in question. There was one more. Who's the last one? Who's the last one? Help me out.
Those were the two that I knew.
Okay. I thought there was Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looks good.
Miami and Atlanta. Yeah, Miami and Atlanta and the Reds game. Those are the two that I've been at least afraid of. So there's a third, I don't know what it is.
The Pittsburgh game, we thought this morning maybe it was going to have some issues, but it looks good enough for my liking at least. Although I'm not crazy about that game, so I hope it stays quiet all the way around.
AO Crypto already asked if we played Dozier tonight. No, you cannot play Dozier. Dozier is in a trade, and the deadline is officially, I believe, at 4 p.m. Eastern. So we are past that now. So no, he's not available for the Twins today.
He's saying for the Dodgers. They said he might play.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be a different thing. I thought that maybe he thought they were getting a ceremonial, like, hey, Brian Dozier, have one last moment in the old Minnesota Jake's outfit for old time's sake. But I can't imagine he will be available in LA in time for today's lineup.
Yeah, they will. They're shipping him to LA right now, so he should be there soon. I'm guessing if he gets there soon enough, they'll have him in. I don't see why they wouldn't. The question is who would come out of the lineup, right? Because I don't know. They're supposed to have. Would it be Muncy?
I don't.
Like.
I mean, they're very loaded, so it's hard to say. I guess. I mean, if Barnes has to be in, so that's one catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe Taylor might be out for the day if they did play him.
Play Dozier. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because I don't know, has he ever played any other position besides second? I haven't seen him play anything else with second, but evening, yeah. Y'all. What's up?
I assume it would be either Kike or Taylor out if Dozier did play, but I just don't see any way he plays. That's a little bit too fast of a turn on. That team, though, real fucking stacked. Like, the Dodgers and Phillies both have really made some trades that are going after it, going all in.
No kidding, man. They both look phenomenal.
Let's talk pitchers, and let's use this as a lead-in from TP since the Orioles dealt Scope. Does that make Tanaka an even better play? He's leaning Bauer. I've liked Tanaka before the trade of Scope. I think the Orioles grade out really well for him. His only issues tend to be against lefties. He'll give up some home runs, but Tanaka's going to get a lot of movement on that ball. How do you feel about Tanaka and the Orioles, I guess?
Yeah, Tanaka is an awesome play. Just Scope was just starting to hit, and now he gets shipped off. Where did Scope go again? I can't keep track of all this.
Scope went to not the Brewers. Who the fuck did Scope go to?
Someone help us
Actually,
out.
that's a good question. There's been too many trades. Anyway. Not the Phillies. We'll find out.
Yeah, the chat's behind it. Milwaukee, okay. That's what I thought, but I honestly, I have no clue where anyone's at now. I know Duvall went to the Braves. I know Gaussman went to the Braves. Yeah, so who knows, man. I got to get like a course tonight about who went where. It was just crazy. Trade after trade after trade. I'm trying to like do research and get lineups going, and all of a sudden 20 people get traded. guys that matter too. It's not just like they're trading, Jeffrey Marte or someone like that.
Yeah, the rich really getting richer with Milwaukee picking up Moustakas and Scope in the same week, and they already had a pretty potent lineup. The Dodgers as well, picking up a lot of bats. Philly adding Ramos is a pretty big trade after adding Cabrera this week too. So a lot of the teams that are really identifying as buyers in this market, I think, are going to be the ones to watch. And some of those fantasy lineups too, just from a hitting standpoint, like I don't know how you can bat around some of these guys given the heat that like the Brewers have now. Some of the Phillies guys, like it's going to be tough. If you're a premium member of Awesemo.com, we just updated our ownership projections. There are a couple snafus earlier in the slate. Robbie Ray was not projected for high ownership tonight after last night. After last night especially, he's not projected for high ownership. But we are updated now. Everything's good to go, so go check it out. Let's talk about pitchers, and let's talk about the guy who's currently projected to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate, Zack Godley. How are you feeling about him tonight, knowing that he's going to be above 30% ownership according to our projections for premium members?
Yeah, I don't like that ownership with him, especially a guy who can give up a lot of hard contact. I get why he is 30%. He's 7,200. He's too cheap. He's at home against a team that strikes out a ton, and that's just a recipe for success, especially when you're that price. There is a really logical pivot that I like in Cahill, but I can't say anything bad about Godley. If you're fading him, I think it's because of ownership reasons, not because you're super scared of this matchup. I think the strikeouts will be there regardless. It's just a matter of how many runs he's going to give up, honestly.
Yeah, and I think a pitcher like Godley compared to Ray, I mentioned actually in our daily game plan email, which if you remember, either free or premium of Awesemo, you'll see those every day. I mentioned it there, and I still believe that. Like, I think Godley's a better matchup versus Texas than Robbie Ray was, because Ray will just attack you with fastballs and go pretty high in zone and stuff, and can get beaten up, whereas Godley's going to work more corners and kind of, I think, get the swinging strikes he needs to be valuable. So I'm with you there. Like, I'm fading him, I think, on an ownership perspective, just because any pitcher who's that highly owned and kind of has a little bit of volatility, I think is generally a better bet to avoid. But I do think the matchup for him looks pretty good, and he should be able to find those strikeouts versus the Rangers.
Sure.
Who else are you going with at pitcher tonight?
So I love Cahill. I'm going to have more Cahill than Godley, and it may not even be close depending on what this crunch is going to give me. But he's just a similar pitcher to Godley. Going to get a bunch of righties at the bottom of this Blue Jays order. The order isn't out yet, I don't think. But assuming it's somewhat normal, you should get a bunch of righties at the bottom and just a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. And Cahill, he hasn't had the results lately, and that's why some people are backing off of him. But I believe in him. I think he's going to go 90, 95 pitches, and the strikeouts are going to be there for him as well. So if Godley falters and you've got a guy in Cahill that's $200 more expensive, and he does what I expect him to do and gets you 20-plus DK points, you're going to be in a really good spot in tournaments for a third of the ownership.
I'm not crazy about Cahill. I would be more inclined, I think, to stack Toronto, because I find them to be a little lower owned than I would want. And granted, it might be burned by a little bit by the last lead that Cahill had, in which he was the marquee pitcher at 9,900 and was just terrible. So I don't know, but to me, like, I think the Toronto grades out well enough. I could see where you're going from a game theory perspective, like going to Cahill, a guy who's comparable skilled. I would be more inclined to pay up for some of the guys, though. I think just to get off that beaten path of Godley. And then I'm not like Bauer pay up, but I'm thinking that Tanaka, Skaggs here, I think would be where I would want to go, and then just figure out from there. Maybe take a flyer on a cheap guy. I don't mind Jeffrey today if we're going to go with a weird, terrible pitcher. He's been getting good strikeout rates, or good swinging strike rates, rather, limiting his walks and hits pretty well. I also don't mind, not crazy about it, but I don't mind going to like an Arrieta, I think, is in an interesting spot, given that, Boston just kind of went through this yesterday with Nola. Arrieta, a much worse pitcher, but I don't know. Like, I think, to me, I'm just kind of getting away from that price range in general with Godley, and I think that's sort of the way I want to differentiate.
Yeah, I'm not on Arrieta at all. I think he's going to get pounded here. Just too tough of a matchup against the Red Sox. I'm also not going to Pomeranz, though, and they're in the same range. I think Pomeranz may get some ownership because it's the Phillies, but I'm not on either side of that game. Just not guys that are missing bats, and that's worrisome on a slate where some of these guys in the low tier are going to post big numbers. I'm pretty certain of it. So I want the guys that can get swings and misses.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, to me, and to be clear, like, I'm not advocating for Arrieta at all. I think he's still a pretty bad play. But I think that's sort of where I'm looking to differentiate, because I don't think Duffy's in a great spot tonight. He does his best work versus lefties, and a lot of those guys are going to be from the right side of the plate tonight. And that sort of freaks me out with him, because I think the White Sox can actually do some damage. And the Vegas total kind of backs that up. So, like, besides him, if you're not going Godley, I don't have a ton of faith. I'm not a big Cahill guy like you are. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to cast my lot with stupid Jeffrey tonight, I think.
Dude, I like Jeffrey. I like Jeffrey.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good swinging strikes.
Yes.
13.4% rate.
Yeah, Jeffrey looks very good to me as a pitcher. And it's a tough matchup, there's no doubt about it, but he's getting a ton of swinging strikes. It's Yankee Stadium. No one's going to be on him. This isn't the same Yankee lineup we're used to seeing. Neil Walker and Kyle Higashioka on the bottom there. Andujar from the right side, not as scary. I don't know. I think Jeffrey can get quite a bit of swings and misses and surprise some people. So it's good leverage off the Yankee stack that's surely going to be popular as well.
Yeah, I agree there. And also, if you're a premium member, Awesemo has his article up today in which he breaks down the percentage chances of each top stack being the number one of them all. And he, I think, lightly advocated for fading the Yankees tonight, mostly because of their ownership level projected to their likelihood of being the top pitcher or the top stack on the slate. So, I don't know, like that combined, obviously them still being projected for a ton of runs and even being a top stack at all doesn't advocate for Jeffrey, but whatever. I'll look for any reason to play Jeffrey, and that's one. If they have a chance at busting, then good for Jeffrey.
Right.
Let's see, anything good? I guess stack-wise, what are we doing tonight if we're not going to the Yankees, or if we are? What are you doing the most tonight in your stacks?
Nationals I love against Mats, Speed against Mats, Taylor, Turner especially, but Rendon, Zimmerman, Soto, Harper, Murphy, all these guys are firmly in my player pool. I'm going to have a lot of Nats stacks. Reds against Matt Boyd, I think that game should play. It's risky for sure, so if you're risk averse, there's 13 other games, or maybe 12 other games, because Miami Atlanta may get postponed. If you're risk averse, avoid this game. It's got a okay chance at getting postponed, but I think it's going to go, so I'm keeping a lot of Eugenio Suarez, some red stacks, all that good stuff. I like both sides of the Phillies Red Sox. Indians top 3 against Gibson. White Sox I have a ton of. Davidson, Avisel Garcia, Abreu, and Tim Anderson. I think you can play Moncada today because that bullpen that KC has is awful. And if they get to Duffy, they should see a righty at some point. So Moncada is much better against righties. Arizona, Oakland against Sam Gaviglio, and then the Dodgers. Those are the teams that I'm going to be over the field on.
Yeah, I would like to see this final Dodgers lineup because Wade Miley, I think, is going to get this target tonight just because the Dodgers lineup isn't out early enough, same as it always is. And they're at home again. They grade out pretty well versus Miley, and Miley grades out pretty poorly versus them. So I would like to get more Dodgers in there as well. I'm with you on the White Sox. I think Arizona's one that I feel like maybe you didn't mention, but Arizona going to be so highly chalked. But yeah, I think, maybe if you're going down the order a little bit there, that might be the way to differentiate because everybody's going to go to Goldschmidt, Pollock, and I guess John Jay? I don't know. I don't know if our ownership for John Jay backs that out, but definitely Goldschmidt and Pollock. So if you get off that beaten path a little, I think that stack still has value at the lower end, on the lower half of that rather. And let's see. And I'm with you on Washington. Washington is one who I feel like Soto in particular is getting a lot of tout love because he's been good despite the same-handed matchup. But I'm with you there that you can kind of stack a bunch of different ways. And Matz does grade out pretty poorly versus righties. Gives up a lot of home runs, 1.8 home runs per 9 innings pitched. So there's a lot of dangerous power that can get some Matz there. Lineup just came out. and Dozier is not involved apparently.
Okay, let me check this out. So it's exactly what we expected. I think we both look at the same place for lineups. Yeah. So nothing, no surprises. Dozier, it would have been a stretch for him to play anyways, but there's talk that maybe he would get in early enough, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. So, just for like full disclosure, I took out the Braves and the Marlins for my crunch, so I have no Braves and Marlins unless something goes terribly wrong in my crunch or something. But yeah, no Braves, no Marlins. Just avoiding that game. I think that one's the most likely to get postponed.
Yeah, I'm avoiding that one, and I am still avoiding the Detroit-Cincinnati game. I could see why you want to play that one and hope for the best, but like that one's been dangerous and red and in danger of being postponed according to the weather people all day. So I'm out on that one. While we're updating you on websites that we can name and not name, we do have one that we can now proudly name because they gave Jake and I free things, and apparently there may be more to come with them. But Fantasy Cruncher, congratulations. You are officially off the bullshit name list where we won't promote you. We are officially allowed to say you because Jake and I got free things. So Fantasy Cruncher, go there. Obviously, they are a very important part of the whole ecosystem of creating lineups, especially if you are mass multi-entering tournaments. So fantasycruncher.com, great place to get an optimizer. Thank you, Fantasy Cruncher. You are no longer a Fantasy Muncher. So thank you for the freebies. Yeah, any pitchers you will even consider under 7K on DK?
Under 7K, let's see. Oh yeah, we talked about Jeffrey. I think he's going to be a nice 1% owned guy. I have some Gaviglio just because he's just a whatever pitcher. He's going to get enough righties where he grades out okay. And there's not a lot of speed on the Oakland side, which is advantageous for Gaviglio because he's so bad at holding runners. Oakland has the least stolen bases against righties this year. We looked that up on the stream this morning. Shields is in play, but I'm under the field on purpose. And that is really it. Yeah, that's about it.
You could have talked me into Bailey, I think, earlier in the day if it were, if the weather were better, because I just think that matchup, he's actually been pitching pretty well lately, especially by Homer Bailey standards. So I would have been okay with him there, but given the weather, I wouldn't want to go there. For me, it's Jeffrey. I'm agreeing on Gaviglio, but I kind of have a stance against him, similar to my Anthony DeSclafani one. I just don't see it on paper usually, and I get they can have those games, but I don't see any reason I would want to go there. I don't mind Arrieta, and I could also see Max just because there's going to be such ownership on Washington, where I think you could maybe have a leverage play there, where if they do fail, then Max would obviously be the beneficiary, and I don't know, the fact that Trey Turner, we had at one point projected for 25% ownership, that to me seems kind of crazy, and maybe there's a leverage point there for Mats. So I wouldn't mind having a little bit of him if you're playing a bunch of lineups, but not a guy I'm crazy about. Carpenter or Riz? We're not doing either or, so I'm not even opening that can of worms right now. Well, do you want to give your thoughts on Godley one more time before we do home run picks, which we did not have one yesterday, unfortunately, but today Jake will get back on the board, I'm sure. But we'll do those in a minute. Give your Godley thoughts one more time since we have new people on.
Just a really good strikeout matchup for Godley against Texas. They strike out some of the most against righties on the season. He's at home. He's been missing a lot of bats, showing kind of what he showed last year during that torrid stretch he had for a couple months. And just everything looks good for Godley. There's not much you can say bad about him, in my opinion, besides ownership. And there are other pivots. So that's why I don't have as much Godley as I would on a normal slate, but certainly not full fading him by any means. I'm definitely going to have a decent amount of Godley.
Yeah, that's about how I feel with it, too. It's really just an ownership play if you are fading him. And, I think it's a pretty credible reason to fade him there. But, yeah, I think there's really not – even as a leverage play, I'm not crazy about stacking against them either, just because nobody is going to grade out that well there. The lefties get on base a little more, but even then they give up. They get less home runs against Godley. So I think it's pretty set up well for a good day for Godley, and he's a tough one to fade. Is Tanaka due for a letdown? I think we talked about him in passing, but do you feel like Tanaka's due at all for a bit of a shitty performance against a mediocre Baltimore team?
No, I mean, I think like a bad performance for Tanaka here would be like 16 or 17 points on DK, which isn't going to kill you, but you'd be pretty disappointed with that. I just don't see how he doesn't get strikeouts here, so I don't see a bad performance for Tanaka. I know there's like BVP or whatever against him, but it's just, yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I could certainly see the logic in wanting to, fade Tanaka somehow, but boy, his swinging strike rate was up last time. They barely made any contact with him. Didn't give up a home run, which is obviously his big issue. He gives up the most home runs on the slate, I think, overall, which is surprising given how good he is. But, there's so many strikeouts. Every guy on that Baltimore lineup, besides Adam Jones, strikeouts above league average. There's like not a single guy underneath 23%. So there's just a lot of strikeouts for him to get there, and I think that makes it hard to fade Tanaka.
Yeah.
Jake or Chris, I need a second baseman. Second baseman's really tough today, so this is not really an either or. But what are you doing at second base today?
I can look that up for you right now. Here we go. Got a lot of Lowry, Kipnis, Kinsler, and Cesar Hernandez in that Philly stack. Who else am I missing here? Those are the main guys. Descalso I'll have a bunch of against Bartolo, batting 6th. But yeah, that's about it. It's not a glamorous position for a 14-gamer.
Yeah, the Descalso I'm glad you mentioned, because I do like him as part of a mini stack if you're trying to get away from the chalkier parts of that lineup. Going with Escobar, Descalso, and then Avila, I think addresses 3 kind of tough to staff positions today. So I think a mini stack there for me. I probably have too much Avila, but I don't know. I like him. He always grades out well, but he also strikes out a ton, so it's probably a bit more of a risk than I'm accounting for. TP asked about one-offs in general, so let's answer that, I guess. What are your criteria for having a one-off play if you are to play one? We would generally advocate against it because it's just not a plus EV approach overall, but obviously some guys can fit that. What would you say, or if you do play a guy as a one-off, are the things that you look for, Jake?
Power, unless it's like an incredible stolen base matchup, like Trey Turner against Mats. So that would be a one-off scenario. Otherwise, I'm just looking for guys with a platoon split that can hit home runs, extra base hits, so high ISOs, low strikeout rate. A guy like Eugenio Suarez. I think if the weather was looking very favorable or just not dicey in Detroit, he would be a guy I would one-off a ton. So if you're going with a 4-3-1 or a 5-2-1, I would be really high on Eugenio Suarez as a 1.
Yeah, I think it's in general you're looking for a fair amount of pop, and then if you also see a lineup where there are guys who kind of are good at getting on base in front of a guy, and then he has power, I think that also is a positive spot to look for that.
Yeah.
And also, if you're also fading a stack that's popular and has a pretty high total, I think that's another thing to account for, because you're just trying to pick out the best part of that stack then with your one-off, and I think you at least have a decent shot at that. How about Tyler Skaggs? He is a pivot off of Tanaka, a sort of similarly well-graded matchup versus Tampa Bay, given their strikeout rate. How are you feeling about Tyler Skaggs tonight?
I like the matchup in the park, but he's 11-3, so I'd rather just go to Tanaka or down to Cahill and Godley. That's my only problem. Point per dollar, I don't think he's a very good value. So I think it's a fine matchup. If you think he's got higher upside than I do, by all means, I think he can get you 20 points. But I'm just not seeing a 30-plus point performance that you might need for over 11K.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. I like him. He does grade out worse versus righties, and there are some righties there who can get to him, I think. But I think that he's an interesting play, but not at that price. I would rather go to Tanaka too. It's just a little bit safer play to me. And the Rays are a team who always strikes me as one of those plays that they can break up a popular pitcher play or even a good pitcher play pretty easily because they hit for contact. They do a good job of it, generally speaking. What are some solid stack? Matthew Prodwell, are you off the ball today, buddy? You're usually a little more narrowed down at this point. Matthew Prodwell's like, who's a good pitcher? Who's a good stack? Kind of did that part. Who do you feel like is an under-owned stack for you right now, Jake, that people are missing the boat on? Actually, wait, no, let's do home runs first. We're at the home run threshold.
Sure, let's do home runs. Not going with a guy that homered yesterday. Give me. I think we might pick the same guy again today. You're probably gonna pick Jose Abreu, but I'm going with.
That's literally what I was looking at.
I'm going with Matt Davidson.
All right.
I'm in your head.
You are a little bit. I'm gonna go to the Nats game then, just to get away from this, and I'll go to Ryan Zimmerman.
I like it. Yeah. I'm in.
God damn it! I literally because I have a handful of lineups, and I was trying to go through to see who I had a fair amount of, and at first base it's Abreu, Zimmerman, and Goldschmidt are my 3 most popular guys. So, damn it! Now I'm gonna be sweating Abreu now too. It's not great.
He'll probably double down, and neither of us will get our guys right.
The important thing was we thought about it.
True.
All right, so there we go. Those were the picks. The Chubster is scheduled to be back tomorrow, so we'll have more home run picks going. And I think we'll also have Alex Osmo Baker himself on tomorrow, too, so keep an eye out for all that stuff on the live stream. Any interest in Tyon, given that Vegas has lowered the Cubs' implied total by half a run?
No, not really. I don't think it's a great strikeout matchup for Tyon. He's in that price range with all those other guys that I like, the Godley and Cahill mostly, but never really was interested in Tyon today. But the total is encouraging if you're on him. So if you pay attention to Vegas, I don't know, go with your gut, I suppose. It's your lineup, but I wouldn't have much Tyon, if any at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Tyon as a pivot off of Godley if you're entering that cash to make it work. Where you have 800 left, and then you have one Tyon, one Godley, one whatever. But I do think it's not a great matchup for him. It's the lefties up top could do some damage to him. He does struggle versus lefties, noticeably more so than righties. Gives up 1.6 walks and hits per innings pitched versus 1.16 versus righties. So it's a pretty stark difference. He's been better lately, but not good enough that I want to play him against the Cubs, and not bad enough that I want to play the Cubs against him.
Okay.
Who are you stacking with Cahill if you're playing Cahill tonight?
I mean, I'm stacking everyone with Cahill. Like the teams
that egregious price.
Yeah, so the teams I'm mentioning, so Philadelphia, Arizona, Cleveland, mostly those top 3 in Cleveland, and I'm kind of limiting it at that. The Dodgers, I love the Dodgers. The Nationals, I think they have a good stolen base matchup as well, and I always like that in my stacks. Who else? Yeah, just like the teams we mentioned off the top of the show are the ones that I'm stacking with Cahill. So all of them. Just 8 teams that I'm really in on today.
Really, the only limit is your imagination when stacking with Cahill. He's very affordable, so that's not one that I'm too worried about. Let's see, how much exposure? It's actually a good question. How much exposure do you have of Roark? Roark a little overpriced, but coming off of a real filthy game last time out. Apparently had some injuries going into the All-Star break. If we want to do some narrative stuff, and his first outing back, he put up a 40-point DK game. How much of Roark do you have, if any?
Yeah, I'm not on Roark really at all. Just an awkward price for him. I would rather go to Flaherty or John Gray, one of those guys in that game. Those guys have shown consistent good strikeout stuff, whereas Roark's done it one time, really, that 11 strikeout game. It's not like he had a 20% swinging strike rate or a ton of chases in that game. So I'm just kind of ready to write that one off and say it was more of a fluke than anything. If he does it again or something similar, if he goes 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, I'll definitely look into it more, but right now I'm just not interested in Roark for that price. His
swing rate was up to 12.3%
yeah,
from 9.7. getting some movement. That hit, who knows?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it was a good start, no doubt about it. But I think 11 strikeouts is kind of crazy for a pitcher like him.
That's fair. Thoughts about Danny Duffy, a popular topic in our live streams, and he is going to pick up some ownership tonight. I think we have in the neighborhood of between 15 and 20% currently. How do you feel about him going against a strikeout-happy White Sox matchup? I assume not great, given that you picked your home run from that game. But how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I feel pretty bad about him. I think he's going to get rocked against the White Sox, especially those top 5. You can throw Moncada in there if you want, but just too much hard contact to righties for Duffy. I think he's got a little bit of regression coming. It's a pretty good park. 4.7 run total is enough to scare me off of Duffy. And just some good hitters that mash lefties at the top of this lineup that I'm worried about.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. He's going to face a bunch of righties up top or people who could hit from the right side, and that is his weakness, his kryptonite for an already shitty pitcher. So if there were a bunch of lefties in the lineup, then yeah, I would be okay playing Duffy, and I think that's been the spot in the past where we've maybe said Duffy was a better play, but for today, not one that I'm going to for him, especially at that ownership. I don't need to go to Duffy. I don't understand how you decide when you say this pitcher is a good pivot from that pitcher. Please explain what you mean by pivot and how do you make that decision. A pivot would be if a guy is going to be highly owned or popular in some way, and then you want to find somebody who's either at a similar price point or a very different price point. So you're like view it like divergent paths. If you're picking this guy, you're gonna end up on this path. If you're picking one of his similarly priced guys, you're on a similar path. So it's like a less steep pivot. And then if you wanted to go completely different and pick like a very expensive guy or a very cheap guy, then you're pivoting this way. So that would be how I would do it. I don't know, Jake, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a pretty good way. Like, so there's different kind of pivots. There's just like mostly you're talking about ownership pivots. So that's what we were referring to, or at least I was referring to with Cahill. So you've got Godley, who's going to be 35% owned, depending on the tournament, 30, 35, 40. And then you've got a guy like Cahill, who I think projects similarly to Godley, and he's going to be a third of the ownership or half of the ownership. That's what we mean by pivot. So you make that ownership pivot. You're getting different than the field, and that's the whole point of a pivot. You want to be different. Get away from the groupthink if you think that that's what a play like Godley is. So I think Godley's a fine play, but I am pivoting off of Cahill in that I have a lot more Cahill than Godley.
Any love for Roman Quinn? Roman Quinn is an A according to value in Awesimo's rankings, JM, so some love there. I haven't seen enough of a sample size from him to make a real assessment, but sure. He didn't grade out particularly well to me from a minor league standpoint, but Jake, any thoughts on Roman Quinn?
I've got some just because I've got Philly stacks, but he didn't like jump off the page for me. He's just 3K and he's in a stack that I want, so that's why he's in some of my lineups.
Yeah, there you go. Thoughts on the Philly stack in general while we're talking about Roman?
Yeah, Pomeranz, he just doesn't look good to me. He's always had issues with righties. Santana, Hoskins, Asdrúbal Cabrera, Michael Franco's hitting a lot better. Alfaro, even like as a catcher. We mentioned Quinn. There's just a lot of guys with good platoon splits here, and Pomeranz does not look good to me. Velocity down a little bit as well.
Yeah, he's gotten hit pretty hard in general this year, but his last couple outings as well, more so. So I'm okay with that stack, and I don't think I got there enough, but I think it looks fine to me and would be a lower-owned pivot to go to as well. Top value play on the slate, it's a little overbroad. I don't know, Jake, do you have an easy answer to that? Top value play on the slate?
I mean, Swihart, he's like the obvious one. I'm not crazy about him as a value play. It's just so hard for value. When I think of value, I think of pitchers because they're more predictive than hitters. Because like a guy can reach value for 2,500 if he gets an RBI double in the first inning. It's not like NBA where a guy has to accrue a certain amount of minutes in order to reach value. If we're just talking about low price guys that I like or have a lot of, we can do that.
Shit.
Michael
Blue Jays
Taylor.
lineup is out, by the way.
Okay.
Blue Jays and A's and Brewers lineups are all out. No Russell Martin for the Blue Jays, so that's why I just said, oh shit.
Yeah, Luke Miley. Look at that.
Ugh. Garbage.
Well. Yeah, all right.
You keep going. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out real fast while I saw the update, because that one definitely submarines at least one of my lineups.
No, I forgot what I was talking about. I ended up with like 22% Jonathan Lucroy, and that's got to come down.
So everybody's got catcher issues now. Yeah, catcher, not a spot I'm crazy about, so I get why people would want to go Swihart. But and I also get why I ended up going a little too much Avila, even though he's hitting in the 8th hole. He's got a lot of power. But not a day like yesterday where I felt like Chirinos was a pretty good catcher play to pivot off of Ray. And I had a fair amount of him. I don't see anybody at catcher who's really jumped out as being like, or even Tyler Flowers. Like, I don't see anybody in that tier either. So I don't know. I think your guess is going to be as good as ours at catcher tonight.
Yeah, it's not a great position. I love. There's no Grandal. That's right. So I don't love Grandal, but he's a guy I wanted a lot of if he was going to catch. Man, it's tough. It's really tough. I guess that's why Lucroy's coming up so much for me.
Yeah, ugly days for both catcher and second base today, I feel like, and not enthusiastic about either of those options. Get all these assholes in. Anything interesting on the Brewers?
Pretty much what we expected, I think. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Kratz in there is 2,800. He actually grades out okay for me. So if you need some value, Late Night Hammer, Eric Kratz, that's a pretty sick play.
Somebody before asked about Walker Buehler, and we didn't take the question, but since you mentioned Kratz, how do you feel about Walker Buehler tonight going against that Brewers lineup?
Buehler is not that impressive to me. If you just look at kind of what he's done this season, as far as his plate discipline numbers, you'd probably realize why. And then this Brewers lineup is dangerous. They showed you last night against Maeda. They showed me maybe not targeting the Brewers as heavily as I should be. It's pretty tough with Moustakas and Shaw and Thames all in there. I like that they moved Thames back and Yelich to lead off. This is about as good of a lineup as they can roll out. So it's just a tough spot for Buehler. Not that he can't get strikeouts, but 8,500. Again, you got those few guys that I really want to play in that range. It's just tough for me to get to a guy like Buehler who's more expensive.
Let's touch on weather one more time since people are talking about the Atlanta game. Which games are you the most concerned about currently? Atlanta, apparently, a lot of people talk about Atlanta. Mm-hmm. We've discussed how we're both fading that. What else besides Atlanta are you either fading or a little bit concerned about?
I'm just taking off the Atlanta game. Like that's just being wiped off the board for me. It's just too risky, and I like the Braves stack. I like Freeman and Markakis a lot, but I wasn't super crazy about the bats anyways in that game, so it was pretty easy for me to wipe out. And then pitchers, same thing. I wasn't crazy on any of the pitchers.
And you're staying with the Detroit-Cincinnati game.
Yeah, I'm keeping it in. So, we'll see how that goes for me. I've had a terrible run with weather so far this year, but yeah, that's well, you've seen it. We've talked about it. It's like
we have
20 minutes after the slate, like 4 times it's like, postponed. Oh, sweet. There goes 20% of my lineups right there.
Yeah, no, not for me. Not this guy. I'm avoiding weather like the plague lately. Even though there's been a couple times where that's been not great. I don't know. I certainly would rather avoid any weather concerns and chances of zeros.
It's like Alex said, right? So you have the game not only has to play, but then your stack has to do well. So it's like, oh sweet, my game played. Yeah, winner, but you guys can still all get zeros. So I get it. That's how I used to think more. I've been a little bit more aggressive with weather this year, but maybe you should calm it down.
Todd Slee asking for our home run picks. Jake's home run pick was Matt Davidson, and he was so in my head about picking Jose Abreu that I instead went with Ryan Zimmerman. So I got scared off of my pick by Jake and went with another one. So if they both hit home runs, then obviously that counts as 2 for me. And maybe a multiplier effect like pinball, like a multi-ball thing. That's my hope. Any thoughts on Alberto Mondesi? Getting real esoteric tonight, going against James Shields.
Yeah, I don't mind him. He's batting 9th, though. That's the problem. He's 4,100. He actually grades out okay for me, but in the 9th spot, like, that's just tough to play a $4,100 player there. I don't know who you could play that's cheaper. Isn't Chris Taylor that price? He's not. He's 42. But if you can fit Taylor, like, I would much rather have Taylor leading off than Alberto. What's his name? Mondesi. Yeah.
I mean, so a last name with a history of success in MLB, but with Raul. But I don't know that they're related. I assume they're probably not. They should be, though. Is Bauer still your number 1, Jake?
Yeah, he's like in raw points for sure. My highest exposed is Trevor Cahill, but yeah, Bauer is the guy I have projected for the most points by a wide margin, actually.
Playing Shields, yes, I just threw up in my mouth. That is, hey, you got to swallow those shitty plays sometimes, Jason Kelly, because if you believe in your bats and the price works for you, then sometimes James Shields can help you pick up a victory, as painful as that may be.
Yeah, it is. It is painful sometimes to play James Shields, especially at chalk-ish. But yeah, you got to get some exposure to these different price ranges, I think. So that's the James Shields love.
Our boy M. Bosch, who was on the live stream once as a former GPP winner, picking Encarnacion going against your boy Kyle Gibson. So that was a lot of your boys in one sentence. But yeah, M. Bosch, just want to shout out him. He is a guy who has won a tournament, so pay attention. He has a degree of gravitas. We should actually be able to give these guys like little like flares if they won a tournament or something, so we can make them seem more important than the other folks. Create a caste system in the chat. It's always been my.
That's never gone poorly, right?
No, never. Not once in the history of the world, Jake. Not once. You missed Dictator Day. We would have picked up some valuable lessons there, I'm sure. We haven't talked much about Jon Gray tonight, but people keep asking about him. How do you feel about him in a somewhat decent matchup, or at least a winnable matchup for him?
He's someone that just kind of, like, I didn't cross him out or anything, but he just didn't grade out as that great of a value at that price. A lot of righties in this Cardinals lineup, so I get the play, but I actually prefer Flaherty over him. So that's just an easy play because Flaherty's 2K cheaper. I think they grade out similarly, and the Rockies are terrible on the road, whereas the Cardinals can hit righties.
Yeah, I'm okay with Jon Gray. I don't think I have any of them right now. I didn't play a ton of lineups tonight, but I think his swing strike rate's gone up quite a bit. He's been pretty impressive lately in terms of just missing bats. And you know, the Cardinals do strike out pretty close to league average. They're not terribly impressive as hitters versus righties, and it's not a situation where they seem like they're due to break out like they are versus lefties. So I'm all right with it. One thing to note though, Sexy Muscles is back. Tyler O'Neill back in the lineup finally. Yeah. Clear some room for him, Tommy Pham. Go to Tampa Bay. It's Tyler O'Neill's time. Excited. I'm gonna roster that guy sometime soon. I can't wait because he's got power and big old fucking arms, big old Paul Bunyan arms.
Sexy Muscles, Tyler O'Neill. Trout? Yeah, always Trout. Always Trout. You don't need to ask if you can play Mike Trout. You definitely play Trout.
Would you go Didi or Machado? And the high price shortstop Democrat.
Machado, yeah.
Probably Machado for me too, but the split for Didi is a little more pronounced and better. Jeffrey pretty terrible versus lefties, and obviously Didi is a lefty, so Jeffrey like really bad versus lefties, but pretty good versus righties. So that's why he's going to be a fun play to have tonight. He's going to be a roller coaster ride, all for us.
Look, yeah, Jeffrey Ramirez is a boomer bust play. You're not playing. I wouldn't play him in a single entry. It's a 6-run total against almost 5.5. It's gone down a little bit, but super boomer bust. You're hoping for 5 innings, 5 or 6 strikeouts, and just get out of there alive with 12 to 15 DK points. It's just super boomer bust. He could easily go negative. It's Yankee Stadium. There's good hitters on the Yankees, even if it's not the same type of lineup that we saw earlier in the season.
he had a good outing last time, or decent outing rather, a survived outing where I think he had 18 points versus Boston in his last matchup. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Is he just gets enough strikeouts where he can sustain, giving up 3 or 4 earned runs, and because look, he's going to give up 3 or 4 earned runs. So let's not go crazy. Jeffrey's an okay play, but not one I'm super passionate about. I know Hader pitched last night. How about a Dodgers stack? I feel like we've talked about that already, but let's talk one more time about the Dodgers.
I love the Dodgers. Hader pitched last night. They burned him out too, I think. So he's not. I don't know if he's even going to be available today. That just makes the Dodger stack all the more sweeter. It's just such a good spot against Wade Miley. All these righties that hit for power. Kemp, Machado. I love Kike, everybody's favorite guy against the lefty. Puig down in that order. I don't even mind Austin Barnes. Muncy hitting cleanup. It just couldn't be better, unless they had Dozier in there somehow. But it's just an insane lineup.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's see. Thoughts of a mini stack of Pittsburgh against Lester. We haven't talked anything about Pittsburgh, so sure, let's talk about that. How do you feel about Pittsburgh and going against Jon Lester?
I mean, I like stacking against Lester in general, but the Pirates don't really have the bats to do it. They've been pretty bad against lefties, so I'm off of the Pittsburgh stack.
Yeah, I mean, none for me tonight either. Let's see anything good. Gleyber, we're not doing either of those yet. Are the Astros getting overlooked tonight?
I think a little bit, probably. I have some Astros. Mike Leake used to be a reverse splits guy. I don't know what he's turned into this year. Good chase rate, but good hitters in the Astros lineup. So anytime you get a handful of good hitters against Leake, I'm interested, even in a bad park.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Any Chris Davis? He's cheap like always.
The Baltimore Chris Davis?
I would presume so. It was spelled like normal Chris Davis, so I would think so. Not Chris.
No, I'm not interested in him. I think he's gonna strike out a bunch against Tanaka. So no, I'm good.
I think he's still gonna strike out a fair amount, and Tanaka's splits lefty and righty aren't that crazy where it's something where I'd be trying to target it. So I don't mind him any more or less than I would otherwise, but Tanaka should be able to do some nasty stuff tonight and strike out a bunch of guys there. Is it foolish to not stack? Right now I have 4 cleanup batters, 1 leadoff, and 2 in 2-hole. Yes, it is very foolish to not stack because you are relying on, in your lineup, that would be 7 different events to occur, whereas a stack, you are relying upon one event to then build upon other events. So the point of stacking is you are decreasing the odds of each item occurring individually. So you should try to stack as much as possible. And if you want to play one-offs, play guys with a lot of power who are a part of a larger stack too. That looks good. But yeah, no, it is foolish to not stack, yes. The odds of you guessing all those guys right is very unlikely.
Agreed. Unless you're playing a cash game, then you don't have to stack in cash. But yeah, if you're playing a tournament, especially large field, over 100 people, I think you should be stacking at least 1 full stack for 5-man. If you want to go like 5-1-1 or 4-3-1 or 4-2-2, something like that. I try to stay away from the 5-mans lately because everybody's running 5-mans in the tournaments that I'm playing in. So like 4-3-1, if you guess the right one-off, you could be in a really good spot at at least getting different lineup construction, which I always like.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Actually, I think a 4-3-1 won yesterday too. The big $100,000 tournament.
Did it?
I think it was like a Braves Cleveland. No, it was one off Jose Ramirez and then somebody else. Oh, it was actually shit we talked about. It was a Braves, Rangers, and one off Jose Ramirez. So that's the kind of guy you want, one off Jose Ramirez, who's a super elite player who can kind of make damage by himself, whether the lineup is doing well or not. And then the other part was a leverage play on Robbie Ray. So, I mean, like, this is all stuff we talk about. You're trying to find leverage plays. You're trying to find pivots. Those are kind of the ways you build a lineup. So, whether you're stacking 5-3 or 4, or rather 5-4, 4-3-1, whatever it may be. 5-3, whatever the fuck. Math is hard at this point of the live stream. What Diamondbacks would you stack tonight? We've talked a little bit about them. They are going to be one of the higher owned stacks. Which are the guys you like the most?
The guys I like the most, Goldschmidt, Pollock, Escobar, Descalso, and Souza. So 2 through 6, I think, would be the 5-man stack if I was hand building a lineup. But I've got exposure to all those guys. Ahmed probably my least exposed.
Yeah, I like all those guys. I like the righties at the 2 through 4 spot the most. But I think that some of the positional ways that you can fill like some of the tough spots that we talked about, you can do with Descalso or Escobar or Avila. So the bottom of the order kind of has the more flexible building blocks to me. Yeah, I think that they're interesting to stack in a bunch of different ways. 3 dong calls? Question mark. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Jason
all
Kelly.
3 of our dong calls. There's only 2.
Well, we don't have a third.
Yeah, there's only 2.
Yeah, we only have 2. We have Jake went with Mr. Matt Davidson, and I went with Ryan Zimmerman. So those are the 2 dong calls. White Sox too cute. No, Jason Kelly. We've talked about that a few times throughout the hour.
Love them.
So yeah, they look good. Danny Duffy very bad versus righties. And the White Sox are rolling out a bunch of righties, so they look fine.
Yep.
Let's see. Stanton, Harper, or Blackman for DK GPP. Somebody that's got money to blow.
What was it? Stanton, Harper, or Blackman?
Yep.
Ooh. That's tough, man. I would probably go Stanton, but it's not easy by any means.
Yeah, I would probably. Yeah, I mean, as a one-off, it's probably Stanton, but Harper is interesting as part of that Washington stack.
Sure.
Chris Davis and Semien, or Stanton and Tim Anderson.
I don't like Semien, so Stanton and Tim Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stack would be the more logical thing there with Davis and Semien, but Stanton and Tim Anderson, I think. Anderson hitting leadoff looks good to me, so probably also go Stanton and Tim Anderson. But general stack would be better. What's Sweetheart's ownership? Hey, Chris Johnson, if you were a premium member of Osmo.com, you could find out. not giving you direct answers to that one, buddy. Go sign up. If you have any last-minute questions, get them in, because I got to do 2 laps. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I got
But Chu and Chirinos one-offs?
Chu and Chirinos? I like Chu as a one-off if you're not playing Godly. Really like that.
Yeah, I think Chu is a logical one-off there. And Chirinos is always a fine one-off. He's got some power.
Yep.
Chris Johnson complaining about a home run pick to try to get free things. That is not the approach. You're getting close to the naughty list, Chris Johnson. Don't go there. Any Nunez love? Another part of an expensive stack tonight that has some potential, but not the best part of it. How do you feel about Eduardo Nunez?
I don't like him as a hitter, so I can't say I like him to play, but I do like the Red Sox stack, so I do have some Eduardo, unfortunately.
James Lopez, what happened to Josh? Josh will be back tomorrow, we believe, but he has a family emergency to deal with, so he is out for a couple days. He mentioned it on the Friday stream, so clearly you don't love him enough to pay attention to when he tells you things on the stream. Sad, James. Sad. Hoskins as a one-off. Sure. If people are just asking names with a question, this is the worst part of the stream. Jake, you want to do names with a question mark time? Because I don't even know how to respond to these.
Yeah, I can't wait. Names with a question mark. Gotta do it.
Kipnis, question mark? Yes, he is a person. He is a person. Alright, I don't even fucking know at this point.
Let's see. trying to make some Philadelphia stacks right now. I didn't get enough on my thing. Let's see if I can do this quick.
First live before lock ever. Brandon, that's a pretty arbitrary statement to make. Unless you've watched every single live before lock, there have been several hundred. So also go fuck yourself. I mean, I don't know what you'd say. Would you expect a positive reply there, buddy?
Yeah, dang.
Mostly go.
It's pretty harsh.
Alex Gordon at 3,100 on DK. I think as part of a stack going against James Shields, sure.
Hoskins as a one-off. I love Hoskins as a one-off. What else do we got here? Nunez. Dang. Not much going on in chat right now. What would you be your one low on single entry team you would go with? I liked Philadelphia. I got extra Philadelphia at the end there. Any postponements tonight? Atlanta and Miami, it looks questionable. I took them out of my crunch. Cincinnati.
No Atlanta, Miami.
Yeah, Cincinnati and Detroit I kept in. What else?
Reportedly, they do want to play that game, though. That's what I just saw an alert from DK Live saying that Atlanta intends to play it if they can.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can't will the weather to go away, you know? So, I don't...
Maybe they have a weather machine.
Maybe. Discount code? Thanks for reminding us, Shark. So the discount code was Awesemo Chat, I believe.
Nobody fucking told me about a discount code.
Yeah, we had one this morning. Tom threw one in there this morning. Someone asked very politely. I believe his name was Kevin. He came in the chat and he was like, "Hey, you got a discount code?" Oh, sorry, Shark. I've been a little bit distracted. I was putting my lineups in. I was a little bit behind today, so my bad. He was trying to tell us earlier, but it was Awesemo Chat, I believe, with no spaces or capitalization. Is that right? Shark and TMCB 74. I believe that was it. But anyways, it's good stuff.
I mean, it would be helpful.
It's 10% off.
If codes and people tell us to promote them, usually we will, but that's not a thing to expect here, apparently. Yeah. So, unfucking real. All right. That's enough of this live stream today. When will you guys watch NFL content? We're doing some now every week. We have preview stuff. As we get closer to lock, there will be more stuff coming up. We'll have early bird specials for NFL as well, and more of Alex's things as we get closer to the season happening. But yeah, not this early yet, unfortunately, in terms of the data and projection stuff. This is going to be like RG. No, it's not. No, it's not, GT.
So one of the biggest companies? Sweet.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. Yeah, sure. That's a better way to look at it, Jake. It's more like a positive thing. But honestly, guys, we're only as good as the live chat is. So that's sort of, it's really a reflection on all of us involved. So if you give us good stuff to work with, give us better stuff, and then we'll have better streams. But thank you guys for tuning in. Either way, to all the people who don't complain and act like little whiny girls, thank you guys for watching. Awesemo Chat, I guess, was a promo code, which, was not giving it any formal way, but go do that.
It was. I just put it in the chat right now.
It's just like it would be helpful if we have a promo code to tell the host of the live stream to promote it. But that's, why would we do that? Why would we? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys again soon. Any parting words, Jake?
No, good luck. Go Trevor Cahill.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See ya.